The night sky over Colorado Springs was unusually quiet. Captain Mark Ellison stood on the balcony of NORAD's upper observation deck, his coffee going cold in the mountain air. Below him, the command center buzzed with restrained urgency, screens lit with data streams, officers whispering into headsets, and the soft hum of radar arrays painting the heavens. It had begun as a simple anomaly, a cluster of unidentified objects entering the solar system at FTL drop speeds, too fast for asteroids, too slow for conventional human craft. Within hours, the cluster had resolved into ships, dozens of them, arranged in perfect attack formation. "They're decelerating." The voice came from Lieutenant Carla Reeves, her tone clipped as she leaned over the main operations table. Mark set down his mug, his jaw tightening. On screen, the holographic display lit up. The objects, now confirmed as warships, glowed crimson on the tactical overlay. Their configuration was alien but unmistakable, a spearhead pattern, designed for planetary assault. Admiral Thomas Kane, commander of Earth Defense Command, entered the room with the presence of a man who had seen combat and survived. His voice cut through the chatter. "Ladies and gentlemen, I've just spoken with the Security Council. We have confirmation these are not friendly. We have received a single transmission from the fleet, in a language we've only partially decoded." The message was short. Kane's cold blue eyes scanned the room. It said, "Kneel or burn." Silence fell. Everyone knew what that meant. Humanity's first confirmed contact with intelligent life had come, and it came as an invasion. Mark's heart hammered as the first contact teams scrambled to their stations. He had trained for this moment, but reality was far heavier than simulations. Humanity had weapons, yes, orbital cannons, kinetic defense platforms, even the prototype warship USS Valkyrie, but no one knew if they would be enough. "They're establishing orbit." Reeves' voice trembled slightly as she magnified the image. "Look at their hulls. Jesus." The alien ships were massive, jagged constructs of dark metal, bristling with spines and glowing vents. They dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. And yet, they moved with precision, almost arrogance, as though Earth were nothing but a ripe target waiting to be plucked. Admiral Kane turned to Mark. "Captain, I want Valkyrie combat ready in 30 minutes. She was built for deterrence, but tonight she fights." Mark nodded sharply. "Yes, sir." He didn't have time to feel fear, orders gave him purpose. Valkyrie, Earth's spear. The USS Valkyrie rested in geosynchronous orbit, hidden under stealth plating that made her look like a shard of space rock. She was humanity's first Titan-class warship, a vessel whispered about more than seen, built in secret after decades of reverse engineering alien ruins found on Mars. Mark entered the command deck, the crew snapping to attention. "All stations report status," he ordered. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Patel, Valkyrie's tactical officer, spun her console toward him. Rail batteries charged. Quantum lance online. Shields holding. "Captain, we are locked and loaded." Mark took the captain's chair, the leather creaking under his weight. For a moment, he let himself breathe. The bridge was dim, lit only by console glow and the wide forward viewport, which now showed the alien fleet, a constellation of death hanging over Earth. "Open a channel," he said. Static filled the speakers, then a voice, guttural, harsh, snarled in broken English. "Earth, surrender. Or burn." Mark leaned forward. "This is Captain Mark Ellison of the USS Valkyrie, representing the planet Earth. We will not kneel." He cut the transmission. "Target their lead ship. Fire warning shot, 10,000 clicks off their bow." Sarah's fingers danced across the panel. Firing. The ship shuddered as its main railgun spat a slug of tungsten into the void. On the tactical screen, the projectile streaked across space at hypersonic velocity, detonating in a brilliant flash near the alien flagship. For the first time, the enemy ships shifted formation. "They're responding," Reeves shouted from comms. "Multiple power spikes, they're charging weapons. Fire among the stars." What followed was not a skirmish. It was war. The alien fleet opened fire in unison, beams of searing plasma slashing through the darkness. Valkyrie's shields flared white-hot as the first salvo struck, rocking the ship violently. Shields at 82%. Sarah called. Return fire. Mark barked. Valkyrie's guns roared. Kinetic slugs and lances of pure energy ripped through the void, tearing into the nearest enemy destroyer. The alien vessel blossomed into an expanding cloud of molten metal. Kill confirmed, Sarah said grimly. But for every ship they destroyed, 5 more pressed forward. The enemy fleet began descending toward Earth's atmosphere, preparing for planetary bombardment. Admiral Kane to Valkyrie, the comm crackled. You are cleared for full weapons release. Repeat, full release. Mark swallowed hard. That meant using the Singularity Torpedo, Earth's most dangerous, experimental weapon. Load Torpedo 1, he ordered quietly. The bridge fell silent as the crew obeyed. A single warhead, containing a micro-black hole generator, slid into the launch tube. Target their carrier, Mark said. Fire. The torpedo launched, vanishing into the black. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to twist, a bloom of darkness forming at the heart of the enemy formation. Ships buckled, twisted, and were dragged into the Singularity, torn apart like paper before the void collapsed on itself. When the light cleared, half the fleet was gone. The surviving ships faltered, then began to scatter. For the first time since the encounter began, the Imperial fleet was retreating. Cheers erupted across the bridge, but Mark raised a hand. Don't celebrate yet. This isn't over. They'll regroup. And they'll be back. His words hung in the air like prophecy. The message. Hours later, as Valkyrie orbited above a shaken but still standing Earth, a transmission came through on an open channel. This time, the alien voice sounded different, strained, almost disbelieving. You are not primitive, it said. You are a threat. The Emperor will know of this. He will come. The channel went dead. Mark stood at the viewport, looking down at the blue-green planet below. We just painted a target on humanity, Sarah said quietly, coming to stand beside him. Mark nodded slowly. Then we'd better be ready when the Empire comes knocking. 3 weeks after the first battle, Earth had changed. Skies over the major cities swarmed with defense drones and troop transports. The orbital shipyards, once quiet silhouettes against the void, blazed with non-stop construction. Humanity's militaries had been mobilized under a single banner, Earth Defense Command, and every scientist, engineer, and soldier had been told the same thing: prepare for war. Captain Mark Ellison stood in the war room beneath Cheyenne Mountain as Admiral Kane briefed the world's top commanders. The air smelled of coffee and cold steel, the atmosphere tense. Intel confirms it, Kane said, his voice grim. The Imperial fleet that attacked us was only a vanguard. Our long-range probes have detected a massive warp signature forming near Neptune. This is the main fleet. He pressed a control, and the holographic table flickered to life, showing hundreds of red icons blooming at the edge of the solar system. Estimated strength? Mark asked, though part of him already knew the answer would be bad. 400 warships, Kane replied. Including supercarriers and dreadnoughts. They're coming to finish what their vanguard started. The room was silent for several heartbeats. 400 ships, enough to glass every major city twice over. Humanity's entire fleet barely numbered 60. They think we're weak, Kane continued, his jaw tightening. They think we're prey. We will prove them wrong. He turned to Mark. Valkyrie remains our spear point. You're going to lead the first strike, hit them at the Kuiper Belt before they can mass their forces. Mark gave a sharp nod. Then we make our stand in the dark. Preparing the spear. Hours later, Valkyrie was fully resupplied, her hull patched from the previous battle. In the hangar bays, crews loaded ammunition, rail slugs as long as trucks, quantum lances, and 3 remaining Singularity torpedoes, each one guarded like the crown jewels. Mark walked the deck as his crew worked. He stopped by Chief Engineer Lucas Grant, who was overseeing the loading of the ship's reactor cores. You think she's ready? Mark asked. Grant wiped sweat from his brow with a gloved hand. Ready as she'll ever be. The quantum drive's running hot, but she can take the jump. You know this mission's suicide if we get surrounded, right? Mark's lips curved into a humorless smile. Then we just don't get surrounded. Grant snorted but nodded. Hell of a plan, Captain. Ambush at the edge. The Kuiper Belt was a graveyard of ice and rock, and tonight, it was about to become a battlefield. Valkyrie slipped out of warp, her hull shimmering as her stealth plating engaged. Around her, a dozen smaller destroyers and frigates of Earth's fleet took position. Contacts emerging, Sarah Patel reported from Tactical. They're dropping out of FTL, now. The void lit up as the first Imperial ships arrived, massive silhouettes of alien metal, their hulls glowing with energy. They came in waves, hundreds of them, forming up like predators circling prey. Hold fire, Mark said. His knuckles were white against the armrest. Wait until they're in range of the minefield. Across the belt, cloaked drones powered up. Thousands of magnetic mines, each one tipped with a nuclear warhead, lay hidden among the rocks. The Imperial fleet advanced. Now, Mark ordered. The mines detonated in a chain reaction, a blinding wave of nuclear fire washing across the first wave of alien destroyers. Dozens were torn apart before they even realized the trap. Direct hits. Sarah shouted, her face lit by the explosions. We just took out 30 ships. Open fire. Valkyrie and her escort fleet unleashed everything they had. Rail slugs screamed through the void, lances of energy spearing through alien shields. More enemy ships died, but more kept coming, their guns spitting plasma and antimatter shells. The space around Neptune became a storm of light and death. The cost of war. Port shields down to 40%. Sarah yelled as Valkyrie took another hit. Sparks rained from the ceiling as conduits blew out, filling the bridge with smoke. Return fire, Sector 7. Mark barked. Another alien cruiser exploded, but the tactical map showed the ugly truth: they were being surrounded. This is Admiral Kane, the comms crackled. Valkyrie, you are authorized to use Torpedo 2. Mark didn't hesitate. Arm and fire. The second Singularity torpedo launched, vanishing into the fray. This time, the detonation consumed an entire dreadnought and its escorts, ripping a hole in the Imperial formation. But the enemy did not retreat. They're learning, Sarah said, voice tight. They're spacing their ships wider, staying out of torpedo range. Then we draw them in, Mark growled. Helm, take us right down their throat. Valkyrie surged forward, guns blazing. The enemy concentrated fire on her, exactly as planned. As more ships closed in, Earth's fleet struck from the flanks, hammering the Imperials into confusion. But the cost was heavy. One by one, Earth's smaller ships were destroyed, their icons winking out on the tactical display. Sir, we've lost the Intrepid and Horizon, Reeves said quietly from comms. Mark's jaw clenched. Every lost ship meant hundreds of lives. The turning point. Hours into the battle, the Imperial fleet began to falter. The ambush had cost them over 100 ships, and Valkyrie's relentless assault had gutted their command cruisers. They're pulling back, Sarah said, disbelief creeping into her tone. We're forcing them to retreat again. Keep pressure on them, Mark said, his voice flat. Don't let them regroup. The surviving Imperial ships jumped out of the system, leaving behind wreckage, frozen corpses, and burning debris. When the last enemy ship vanished, silence filled the bridge. Status report, Mark said. Minimal reactor damage, hull integrity 73%, Grant replied. We're alive, but we can't do that again. Not without reinforcements. Mark turned to the viewport, where the shattered remains of the battle glittered like stars. We bought Earth time, he said softly. But they'll be back, with everything they have. Sarah stepped closer, her expression grim. And when they do? Mark's eyes were hard as steel. Then we end this war. The Imperial Armada came at dawn. It was 6 weeks after the Battle of Neptune when the alarms began to scream across Earth's orbital defense network. Captain Mark Ellison was asleep in his quarters aboard Valkyrie when the alert klaxons jolted him awake. He was on the bridge within 2 minutes, fastening the last clasp of his uniform as he arrived. The crew was already at battle stations, their faces pale in the blue glow of the tactical display. "Report," Mark snapped. Sarah Patel didn't look up from her console. FTL signatures just appeared at the edge of the system. "Sir, it's them. All of them." The display updated, and Mark's breath caught in his throat. The entire tactical map turned red. Hundreds, no, thousands of Imperial ships filled the screen, a swarm of steel and fire advancing in perfect formation. Admiral Kane's voice came over the comm, hard as iron. "This is it, people. No more retreats, no more warnings. Today we decide whether humanity lives or dies." The gathering storm. Earth's defenses came alive. The orbital gun platforms pivoted toward the incoming armada. Planetary shields flared to life, shimmering like auroras over the continents. Fleets from Mars, Titan, and the Jovian moons jumped in to join Valkyrie. In the command seat, Mark felt the weight of every soul in the system pressing on his shoulders. "All ships, form up," he ordered. "Valkyrie takes point." The ship surged forward, leading the combined fleet into open space. The enemy fleet spread wide, blacking out stars with its numbers. Sarah's voice was low. "They outnumber us 10-1. Mark nodded grimly. "Then we make every shot count." The battle for Sol. The first salvo came from the Imperials, beams of superheated plasma lancing toward Earth's fleet. Shields flared, some failed, and ships died in the opening seconds. "Return fire," Mark barked. Valkyrie's main railguns roared, launching slugs that tore through alien hulls. Quantum lances sliced through enemy cruisers. The rest of Earth's fleet followed suit, lighting up the void with fire and fury. But the Imperials were relentless. Wave after wave of enemy fighters swarmed the human ships, kamikaze strikes exploding against shields. Port batteries overheating. Grant shouted from engineering. "Keep them online." Mark snapped back. They fought ship by ship, meter by meter, turning the space above Jupiter into a hellscape of shattered hulls and burning debris. The final weapon. Hours into the battle, Earth's fleet was on the verge of collapse. Half their ships were gone, shields failing across the board. "Captain," Sarah said urgently, "if we don't do something now, they'll break through and hit Earth directly." Mark's hand hovered over the final key, the last singularity torpedo. "This is all we have left," he said quietly. "If this fails, then Earth burns," Sarah finished. Mark nodded. "Target their command ship. Fire." The torpedo launched, streaking toward the Imperial flagship, a dreadnought so massive it dwarfed entire cities. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space folded in on itself, and the black hole bloomed. But this time, the Imperials were ready. Energy shields flared, redirecting part of the gravitational implosion. The flagship shuddered but held, barely. "They survived," Sarah breathed. "Then we finish it the hard way," Mark growled. "Helm ram course. All power to forward shields." "Sir?" "You heard me. We take them with us if we have to." The spear point. Valkyrie surged forward at full burn, tearing through enemy fire. The bridge shook violently as plasma blasts struck home, but the shields held long enough to punch through the Imperial formation. "We're almost on top of them," Grant shouted. "Charge the quantum lance," Mark ordered. "Maximum yield. Overload if you have to. That'll blow the core. Then let's make it count." The lance fired a beam of blinding white energy that speared through the enemy flagship from stem to stern. Its shields collapsed, its hull splitting open. "Now!" Mark roared. Grant slammed the reactor controls, overloading the Valkyrie's core. The ship became a star for a brief moment, a detonation so powerful it consumed the Imperial flagship and everything within 10,000 kilometers. Silence after the storm. When the light faded, Valkyrie was gone, nothing left but glowing debris. But so was the Imperial command ship, and with it, the coordination of the entire armada. Without leadership, the enemy fleet faltered. Earth's remaining ships pressed the attack, driving the Imperials into full retreat. One by one, the red icons on the tactical display blinked out as the survivors jumped away. When the last enemy ship was gone, Admiral Kane's voice came over the calm, hoarse but triumphant. "Ladies and gentlemen, the solar system is secure. The price of victory." Days later, Earth held a memorial for the fallen. The names of every ship and every soul lost were read aloud, echoing across a planet that had survived annihilation. Sarah Patel stood at the podium, her uniform crisp, her voice steady despite the weight in her chest. "Captain Mark Ellison once said we would not kneel," she told the crowd. "Today, because of him and because of all of them, we still stand." The crowd rose in silence, honoring the dead. Above them, the night sky was clear, the stars sharp and bright, no longer symbols of fear, but of possibility. Humanity had faced the Empire and survived. And somewhere, in the far reaches of the galaxy, the Emperor would be hearing the news. Earth had not just resisted. Earth had fought back and won.